Kevin Garnett recently had something to say about Cooper Flagg. I'm just going to read out the quote. Before you had guys, and the argument was that some guys couldn't play in the NBA straight out of high school. Not the case today, Garnett said. Some of these kids I'm watching now, and I'm like, they don't need to go to college. Cooper Flagg, didn't. AJ Dybansta, he's another problem right now. Why we waiting? I have to say, I agree with Kevin Garnett. We should be able to see these kids go straight to the NBA from high school. That's something I have been wanting to see for years now. Granted, I did grow up during the 90s, so I can remember when Kevin Garnett started the trend of kids going straight from high school to the NBA. Back when Kevin Garnett first attempted it, it was sacrilegious to see someone jump from high school to the NBA. I think the last time some guy had done it was during the 70s, which was like 20 some years earlier, prior to Garnett making that leap. And it was very controversial back then when Garnett did it. The main reason why Garnett did it was actually because his ACT scores and SAT scores were not good enough to qualify him to play for college basketball. They weren't high enough. And that was the biggest reason why he was going straight to the NBA, because he didn't want to waste time sitting out a year not playing basketball. So he decided to take that leap and take that risk and do that jump, which hadn't been done for 20 previous years. And I still remember at the time people saying he was going to fail, he was stupid, he was dumb, and that he wasn't going to make it into the NBA, that this was like the biggest mistake of his life and he would regret it. Obviously, they were wrong about him making that mistake. It turned out to be a great decision by Kevin Garnett. As we know, he had a Hall of Fame career, and it worked out for him quite well. So I would say that he definitely proved people wrong in that regard. But to me, I just remember just how big of a deal it was back then, and there was all these arguments that these kids need to go to college so they can learn how to save their money, and they need to be taught how to be men and how to be professionals and blah 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 blah. And I thought it was dumb back then, to be honest. And I was a kid back then when hearing that, because even back then as a kid, I'm thinking like, how can college really teach you how to manage money? Just you either know how to save it or you don't. And if you could just make money right away, why would you delay making money? That doesn't make any sense. That was really my mindset even as a kid back then. Granted, I could understand the argument now being a grown adult, even though I still disagree with it, that college allegedly was supposed to make these guys mature back then. And maybe it did to some degree. I guess it did, because you didn't get that notoriety back then as quickly as you do now coming out of high school. That there could have been some structure back then where these guys were forced to be humble in college. But even then, I think to some degree it wasn't really fully true. These guys get God-like worship the moment they walk onto the college campus. They're worshipped, and they don't really have to face accountability. I think the only way you mature in life is that you're forced to face accountability in some way or some form. If you don't have to face it, you will never really mature as a person. That's the reality. It's why I feel a lot of NBA players today are very immature, because they've never really had to be held accountable for most of their lives, starting at a young age when they became even prospects in elementary schools. People bent the rules for them in hopes that they would be great. So when you foster mentality, you're not going to be a mature person ever. And I think that's why this argument is twisted when it comes to college making these guys mature. I definitely don't think it does. Just I don't see it. To be honest, just 1 year is not going to suddenly make you a super mature person, and you're going to be equipped to handle life in the proper way to do it. So that's why I always disagree with these guys who are like pro college. They need to mature and develop. It doesn't do that. They're just spoiled and pampered, and in the thing student athlete, that label to me is the biggest joke. It's more like athlete. It's not about being a student. And I don't knock them for not caring about those school classes, because for them, they're not going to be there for 4 years. They're not going to major anything. So it's like a waste of time. And there's just no point of, being devoted to that stuff if you're a surefire prospect to get into the NBA. So I always thought that argument was stupid. I just think it fails today, because even college doesn't prepare these guys to play in the NBA. That you don't see surefire prospects coming straight out of college often anymore. It usually takes a few years for these guys to develop before they really become ready. So I disagree with that. I think college development is not good anymore. I think the G League, I think the NBA should have more of a minor league influence on these guys, kind of like baseball, where these guys, if they want to go to the pros, they can get drafted at 18 and they can play the minor league system. If you want to argue development, I think that would be the best way to go. But personally, I would just like to go straight back to 18 years and then you could go straight to the NBA. To me, that's what I want. I found it entertaining back then when we would see all these guys like Kevin Garnett just go straight from high school to the NBA. Next year, we would see Kobe Bryant and Jermaine O'Neal, and we would see other guys in upcoming years that would make that jump. It was just a lot of fun on draft night seeing some random high schooler that I've never heard about before drafted and wondering if this guy could be possibly a superstar or an all-star in the future. It was fun just speculating about that, how this guy could turn out. I know there were some sad stories where there was just a few guys who just failed miserably. There was this one guy I recall, I think his name was Corleone Young. I remember he was drafted in, I think, 99 or something by the Spurs in the first round, and he was traded to the Mavericks, and it didn't work out for him. He had this mental health problems. It could have been Corleone Young. No, I think that was some other guy. I think his name was Leon Hamilton, but I'll have to look that up. But this guy went off his rocker. He had mental health problems and he flamed out. So stuff like that can happen, but I'm all for it. I still want to see guys go straight from high school to the NBA. I just think it makes the draft more interesting. There's more prospects to draft from, and it's just more fun to speculation, especially in a weak draft where there's not anybody that's really a great headliner for the draft. That's one of the reasons I would like to see it. So I like to see for entertainment value personally. I just don't think college develops these kids anyway. So at least give me some entertainment on draft night where we can speculate some guy from some random high school in this country that I've never heard of. Just, yeah, I want to go back. I'm not going to lie about that. So that's all I'm saying.